The year is 1805. Europe is ablaze, and Napoleon's thirst for domination shows no signs of slowing. While the smoke from the Battle of Trafalgar has yet to clear, and Great Britain celebrates its naval victory, on land, Emperor Napoleon is already crafting plans that will forever change the face of the continent. After his ambitions to invade England were dashed, Napoleon realized that the focus must shift to the continent. Meanwhile, diplomatic maneuvers culminated in the formation of the Third Coalition against France, uniting Great Britain, the Austrian Empire, Sweden, and Russia, powers determined to halt Napoleon's growing might. Napoleon had to act swiftly. His grand invasion plans, which had gathered an incredible grand army of 177,000 soldiers at Boulogne, were abruptly redirected. This unprecedented move transformed an invasion force into an expeditionary army, prepared to march thousands of kilometers across Europe. This lightning march, often called the Race of the Eagles, had one clear objective: to intercept the Austrian forces before they could join with their Russian allies. At the time, the Austrians, with 72,000 troops under the reckless General Karl Mack von Liebknecht, preemptively invaded Bavaria, which had sided with Napoleon. Their strategy wrongly assumed the main battles would take place in northern Italy, not in the heart of Germany. This critical misjudgment shaped what was to follow. Meanwhile, the Russian army under General Mikhail Kutuzov advanced slowly through Poland. Their delay, partly due to logistics and partly due to a misunderstood difference in calendars, often cited as Gregorian versus Julian, the modern historians dismiss this as a myth, gave Napoleon a crucial advantage. In autumn 1805, Napoleon executed one of the most brilliant and decisive maneuvers in military history, culminating in the Battle of Ulm from October 16th to 19th. The Austrian army under General Mack, numerically strong but strategically vulnerable, was pushed deep into Bavaria. Napoleon exploited the Russian delay with masterful precision. His grand army, demonstrating incredible speed and coordination, advanced swiftly into the heart of Germany. After crossing the Rhine, French corps performed a massive right wheel, simultaneously reaching the Danube and turning south, cutting off Mack's supply lines and retreat routes. On October 7th, General Mack finally realized Napoleon's cunning plan. The emperor intended to bypass his right flank and cut off the entire Austrian army from the slowly approaching Russians. Mack tried to regroup, repositioning his left flank at Ulm and right at Rain. Yet the French rolling wave pressed on, crossing the Danube at Neuburg, Donauwörth, and Ingolstadt, placing Napoleon's forces behind the entire Austrian army, effectively encircling it. Austria again faced deadly encirclement. Mack ordered a Danube crossing at Günzburg, but on October 14th, his troops ran into Marshal Ney's Sixth Corps at the Battle of Günzburg. The Austrians suffered heavy losses, around 2,000 men, and were forced back to Ulm. Earlier, on October 11th, Mack's army had attempted a breakout north, but was stopped at the Battle of Haslach-Jungingen, where General Dupont's smaller French division successfully held them back. By October 16th, Napoleon had completed his magical ring. Mack's entire army was surrounded at Ulm. 3 days later, on October 19th, Mack surrendered unconditionally with about 25,000 to 30,000 troops, 18 generals, and 65 artillery pieces. Approximately 20,000 Austrians escaped, while 10,000 were killed or wounded. French losses were minimal, around 500 dead and 1,000 wounded. Upon surrender, Mack reportedly called himself Unfortunate General Mack, to which Napoleon magnanimously returned his sword and freedom. However, back in Austria, Mack was court-martialed and sentenced to 2 years' imprisonment. In under 15 days, Napoleon's grand army neutralized an impressive 60,000 Austrian troops, showcasing unmatched speed, precision, and tactical brilliance. While Napoleon celebrated the stunning Ulm victory, remaining Austrian corps and the Russian army hastily retreated towards Vienna, pursued relentlessly by the French. It was a grueling march of exhaustion and desperation. The Russian army, led by General Kutuzov, aware of the danger, also withdrew eastwards, joining remaining Austrian forces under General Michael von Kienmeyer at the Ilz River on October 22nd. Allied forces conducted a successful delaying action at Amstetten on November 5th, slowing French pursuit, but the pressure of Napoleon's grand army was relentless. Russians reached St. Pölten on November 7th and crossed the Danube the next day, destroying all bridges behind them and holding the last at Stein until late afternoon. Though victorious at Ulm, Napoleon mistakenly believed Kutuzov would retreat directly to Vienna for a decisive battle. Instead, the cautious Kutuzov continued withdrawing east. Napoleon then created a new 8th Corps under Edouard Mortier to secure the northern Danube bank, prevent reinforcements to the Austrians or Russians, and crucially, block Kutuzov from crossing and fleeing deeper into Russia. Mortier's corps of about 14,000 men crossed the Danube near Linz and Passau in early November and marched east along the river, operating independently. The Battle of Durnstein, also called the Battle of Lambach, took place on November 11, 1805, in the picturesque Wachau Valley. Mortier's lead division under General Gazin, about 6,000 men, reached Durnstein. However, Mortier, ignoring Napoleon's strict orders to protect his northern flank, established his headquarters there, feeling secure. Kutuzov devised a complex plan. A column under Streak, around 5,000 men, was to attack the French right wing, while 2 larger columns under Doktorov and Schmidt, around 13,000 men, aimed to flank the French through the mountains and strike from the rear, trapping them. Mortier wrongly assumed the Russians were retreating and ordered Gazin to attack. Though initially advancing, Gazin's division soon faced much stronger resistance. Around 8 a.m., fighting raged through the villages of Oberleuben and Unterleuben. Doktorov and Schmidt began encircling the French forces. Gazin's division, attempting to break through the narrow Danube gorge, found itself caught between 2 Russian forces, facing near total destruction. At this critical moment, General Dupont, hearing artillery fire in the distance, rushed to the battle with his division without orders. His surprise flank attack on Doktorov's troops turned the tide. Fighting continued into the night, with Schmidt's forces joining. Under cover of darkness, and with the help of a makeshift flotilla of 50 boats, Mortier evacuated his exhausted troops across the Danube's southern bank, saving his division from annihilation. The Battle of Durnstein was tactically inconclusive, but strategically important. Suffered about 4,000 casualties, 1,600 dead and wounded, 1,900 captured, and 400 drowned, while the Russians lost around 2,000, 1,000 dead and wounded, 1,000 captured. The battle exposed French vulnerabilities when overextended and confirmed Kutuzov's caution. The Allies continued their retreat, but gained precious time and showed Napoleon that victory would not be easy. The Emperor realized he had to confront the Russo-Austrian forces before they withdrew too far, allowing the war to drag on and the Allies to receive reinforcements. Costing maneuvers and battles at Ulm and Durnstein where Napoleon showed brilliance but also bitter resistance, a crucial phase of the campaign followed. The French occupied Vienna in November 1805, while the remaining Austrians and most of the Russian army under Kutuzov retreated eastward. Napoleon was eager to end the war, knowing he had to face the combined Allies before Russian and Prussian reinforcements arrived. Prussia was then on the verge of joining the coalition. Napoleon executed a daring move, a masterstroke of tactical deception. He deliberately ordered his troops to withdraw, creating the illusion of weakness and hesitation. Key to this ruse was the intentional abandonment of the strategically vital Pratzen Heights near Austerlitz, present-day Slavkov-Uberna, Czech Republic. Days before the battle, Napoleon spread rumors about troop exhaustion, supply shortages, and even his own doubts. This deception, bolstered by a staged meeting with Prince Peter Dolgorukov, during which Napoleon appeared anxious and hesitant, was flawless. Allied generals, arrogantly confident in French weakness and eager for a quick victory, accepted Austrian Chief of Staff Franz von Weirother's plan. 2nd, 1805, one of history's greatest battles took place, the Battle of Austerlitz. Napoleon's French army faced the combined Russian-Austrian forces led by General Kutuzov, though real command was given to the overconfident Austrian Chief of Staff, Franz von Weirother. His risky plan called for a massive attack on the French right flank to cut Napoleon's supply lines, assuming the French were weak there. The Allied army counted around 85,000 men with 318 guns, while Napoleon had 72,000 troops and 157 guns. Crucially, Marshal Davout's Third Corps, after a grueling 110-kilometer march, arrived just in time to support the French right. The French army was composed of veterans from prior campaigns in Italy and along the Rhine, giving them a combat edge. Napoleon anticipated the Allied plan. He had deliberately weakened his right to lure the Allies into a trap, leaving the vital Pratzen Heights temporarily exposed. His real forces were hidden in the center, ready to retake the heights and smash the enemy in a decisive counterattack. Napoleon's troops were highly mobile, with With well-coordinated infantry-artillery support tactics refined during previous battles, at 8 a.m., the Allies attacked Telnitz, but French resistance and the timely arrival of Davout turned the tide. Davout's troops had marched through the night with little rest, making their timely appearance even more remarkable. Meanwhile, under pressure from Tsar Alexander I, Kutuzov's Fourth Corps abandoned the Pratzen Heights, a fatal mistake. Napoleon seized the moment. "One sharp blow and the war is over," he said, ordering Marshal Soult to storm the heights. Hidden by fog, French troops advanced. At the key moment, the morning mist lifted. The legendary Sun of Austerlitz shone, revealing to stunned Russian soldiers the full force of Napoleon's army ascending the hill. After fierce bayonet fighting, the French captured the heights. The Russian Imperial Guard launched a desperate counterattack, briefly breaking through, even capturing a French standard. This was the only French standard lost during the battle, but Napoleon responded by sending in his own elite cavalry. Reinforcements from Bernadotte's corps soon arrived, helping to rout the Russians. Grand Duke Constantine, commanding the Guard, narrowly escaped death during the charge. In the north, Lannes and Murat's forces defeated Russian cavalry under Bagration. This sector saw heavy cavalry-on-cavalry action, with Murat's cuirassiers playing a decisive role. In the south, Davout and Saint-Hilaire broke through at Sokolnitz and Telnitz. Many Allied leaders fled. The commander of the Allied left, Buxhoden, was reportedly drunk and left the battlefield in chaos. Austrian General Langeron, responsible for a key attack column, also lost control of his men during the retreat. During the retreat, part of the Russian army attempted to flee across the frozen Sachin lakes. French artillery opened fire, breaking the ice. Hundreds of men and cannons sank into the freezing water. A controversial yet confirmed tragedy. The French used their 12-pounder cannons for this bombardment, which had a long range and destructive effect on frozen surfaces. In total, the Allies lost around 36,000 men, 180 guns, and 50 flags, nearly 40% of their army. The French lost about 9,000. It was one of the most lopsided victories in Napoleonic history. Napoleon's victory was celebrated across France. In a letter to Josephine, he wrote, "I have defeated the Austro-Russian army commanded by 2 emperors. I am somewhat tired. I embrace you." The battle led to an armistice with Austria and the Treaty of Pressburg. Austria ceded territory, paid 40 million francs, and transferred Venice to Napoleon's Kingdom of Italy. More importantly, the victory allowed Napoleon to form the Confederation of the Rhine, dissolving the Holy Roman Empire, which had lasted nearly 1,000 years. Emperor Francis II then took the title Francis I, Emperor of Austria, ending his role as Holy Roman Emperor. But peace did not last. In 1706, fearing France's rising power, Prussia declared war. And Napoleon's campaign resumed. The flames of Europe would burn again within months.